Good morning, this is Robert. Today is September 21st and it is Wednesday. Welcome to That's Right, I Said It. There was nothing on the news this morning that kind of startled me or caught my attention or made me want to just flare up in my normal emotion and rage. So what I've decided to do is talk to you a little bit about gas mileage. Yes, that's right, gas mileage in your cars. And particularly how you can save money with your style of driving. There is a method of driving called hypermiling. Hypermiling is a style of driving that helps people save 20-30% on their gas mileage. Of course, some people say, well, why would I want to get better gas mileage? You know, I'm not that concerned about the environment. Well, you know, it's to me about saving money. If I find a way that I can save money, I'll do so. And I'll break this down so that you can understand how much money you can actually save, what it means to you. Well, first of all, I think the numbers, and this is a numbers situation, the numbers indicate that the average person will drive somewhere around 15,000 miles a year. Taking that in regard, that will equivalent to 1,250 miles a month. Well, my car, when I drive it aggressively, and when I say aggressively, I don't necessarily mean speeding. I mean when I race from one red light to the next, when I am not comfortable with someone being in front of me, so I got to dart around them, when I feel like I'm in just a hurry to get to where I'm going, I drive aggressively. When I drive my car aggressively, I get around 21 miles to the gallon. I have a 5-cylinder 1995 Volvo that I drive primarily, and I will also give this same example for my Jeep, but the Jeep I had, but let's do the Volvo first. When I drive aggressively, I get 21 miles to the gallon. When I drive and get 21 miles to the gallon, that means in a month that I drive to 1,250 miles, I will use 59.52 gallons. I will spend, at today's current gas rate of $2.50, I'll spend $148.80 on gas. For a year, that's $1,785 for the year. Now, when I change my driving styles and drive, for lack of a better term, and I think we've all heard this, drive like an old lady, I don't find the need to go around people. I flow with the traffic. I don't race from one red light to the other. I normally don't find the need to do the speed limit on the interstate. The speed limit on the interstate may be 70 miles to the hour. I'll drive 65 miles an hour, and that's a lot of times in the flow of traffic, especially with big rigs. A lot of people don't know this, but big rigs, most of them are governed at 62 miles an hour. And when I drive like an old lady, not aggressively, not revving my engine. A lot of cars have tachometers. Tachometers rev from 0 up to red line at 6 or 7, and they go a little bit past that sometimes. I try to keep my tachometer under 2,500, between 2 and 3. If I can get that thing to stay under 2,000 RPMs, I'll be doing good. And my acceleration, I start off nice and easy. The car gradually picks up speed. I drive like an old lady. Anyway, when I drive like that, instead of getting 21 miles to the gallon, I get 25 miles to the gallon. Instead of using 59.5 gallons in a month, I only use 50 gallons in a month. At that same rate of $2.50 a gallon, instead of spending $148.80, I'll only spend $125. That's about a $23 savings in the month. Instead of spending $1,785, I'll spend $1,500 in a year. That's a saving of $285. I don't know about you, but if I found $285 laying in the seat of my car when I got in it one day, somebody just jammed it through the crack of the window, I'd be a little bit excited. And the fact of the matter is, when I drive from home to my office, that's about an 18-mile drive. If I drive like I'm in a hurry versus like an old lady, I may cut 1 minute, 2 at the most, off of that drive to the office. So, let's say, for instance, I'm leaving home. I need to be at the office at 8. I leave home at 7:40. I'll get to the office at 8. If I drive like I'm in a hurry, aggressively, I'll cut 2 minutes off of that. I'll get there at 7:58. So you tell me, is it saving $23 a month or $185 a year worth taking my time? I might think so. Now, when I was driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee, I had a 6-cylinder in the Jeep Grand Cherokee. When I drove aggressively, I got only 16 miles to the gallon. When I drove like an old lady, I would get almost 21 miles to the gallon. So I'll say it's 20.5 miles to the gallon. Now, when I drove aggressively, I used 78 gallons per month. That was $195 a month, and that was $2,343 a year. When I drove like an old lady in my Jeep, I got 20.5 miles to the gallon. That's about a 28% savings. So when I drove nice and calm with the flow of traffic, didn't speed, stayed, 5-10 miles an hour under the speed limit on the interstate, I used 60 gallons of gas instead of 78. I saved 17 gallons of gas. That's almost a half a tank. Instead of spending $195 a month, I spent $152 a month. Instead of spending $2,343 a year, I only spent $1,829 a year. I was saving over $500 a year for gas. Now my water bill is about $30 a month. Somebody's saying to me, hey, if you drive nice and calm, like an old lady, take 20 minutes to get to work instead of 18 minutes, I'll pay your water bill every month. Man, that might get my attention. I'd probably laugh it off, but that might get my attention. Here's the kicker. Bringing this down to real live numbers, on my Volvo, when I'm driving, getting 25 miles to the gallon versus 21 miles to the gallon, that's about a 20% savings on my cost of gas. So I ask you this. If there was 2 gas stations, whatever brand of gas you use, I use Exxon mostly, BP when I'm traveling. But if I'm using Exxon gas, and there's 2 Exxon gas stations across the street from each other, and one of them is selling gas for today's rate at about $2.50 a gallon, and I happen to look across the street, and that gas station is selling gas at $2.02 a gallon, where do you think I'm going to buy my gas? at the station that's selling it for $2.50 or the station that's selling it for $2.02. Now when I look at my Jeep was getting 28% better gas mileage when I drove conservatively with some of the hypermilling techniques. And you can look that up on the internet. Go to Google, type in hypermilling, and then read that information. That even changed even more. Instead of paying $2.50 a gallon, the gas station across the street that I could be a member of if I drove conservatively, instead of $2.50 a gallon, this gas was $1.80 a gallon. Now, I don't know about you, but I do know that if somebody got on the radio and said, hey, this gas station on the corner of Smith and 32nd is selling gas for $1.80 a gallon, a lot of us will leave work early to go get in line to pump that gas. So what I'm saying to you is, you can get that if you're an aggressive driver. If you always feel like you're in a hurry when you're driving. If you got to drive 70 instead of 60, 65, you can get a better deal on your gas simply by using hypermill techniques, driving more conservative, and saving yourself some money in the long run. You know, hey, I like to save money like some people do, and I've even found that driving different speeds on the interstate will save me money. And every car has got a brake. You have to learn where your car is. My 1995 Volvo, it has those computerized mileage indicators. I can switch the lever and it'll tell me, hey, you're getting 25 miles to the gallon at driving 68 miles an hour. I can slow down to 60 and it'll say, hey, you're now getting 31 miles to the gallon now that you're driving 60. I can slow down to 50, 55, and it still says, hey, you're still getting 31 miles to the gallon. So I took it another step and I figured out that as I'm driving down the interstate, my car gas mileage gets the same up to 60. Once I go over 60, my gas mileage begins to drop. At 60, I can get 32 miles to the gallon. 31, 32 miles to the gallon. At 65, it drops to around 27 or 28 miles to the gallon. At 70, it drops all the way down to about 24 miles to the gallon. So when I'm going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, I'm getting 24 miles to the gallon. If I can drop that down to 60, man, I can get 28% better gas mileage and actually end up getting 31, 32 miles to the gallon. Actually, it's around 20%. So try to figure out where your vehicle brake is. Now, my daughter's vehicle, her car gets the same highway gas mileage up to about 70, 72 miles an hour. So she can go the speed limit or 60 and it doesn't affect her gas mileage. She still gets 30, 31 miles to the gallon. Now, if she goes over 70, then it starts dropping off. There's not too many places in the country that the speed limit's 75, so it doesn't hurt her. But to me, hurts me a little bit. Find out where those brakes are for you. Try to drive a little bit more conservative and save yourself big at the pump. That's all I have for today. Hypermill away.